Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Talking Dogs with Ante. Or maybe I can say also not only good evening, but also good morning and good afternoon, because as usual, it is people from all around the world who are watching the show. And I'm very happy to say that there are already so many comments and over 130 people watching, and the numbers are going quickly up. So my guest for sure is going to be happy about that, the same as me, because we really appreciate to have a lot of people watching, and we appreciate all of your comments to see when when we start to read and to see that people from all around the world are watching. It is much appreciated, and of course, in the beginning and also at the end, always like to thank to you who are supporting us and watching us from almost every Wednesday. Another thing I want to say in the beginning is that we have a new partner of the show. It's So Posh Professional Cosmetics for Dogs. You could have seen their video in the beginning of our interview. I'm very happy to that they have joined our project. And if you go to our Talking Dogs with Ante Facebook group, you can see the rules for the giveaway that they are giving today. It's quite easy. The only thing you need to do is to make a photo of yourself or of your dog, or just the screen to see that, to prove that you are watching the show, and put it in their Facebook group, So Posh Balkan. And one of the winners, or one winner, is going to receive, obviously, free of charge, shampoo and a conditioner from So Posh for the breed that you have at home. So something very easy to do, and a nice thing to receive just before Christmas. Anyhow, I had a lot of guests in this show, but not so many who have been so successful in all things in the sport, or how to say it good in English. I don't even have an idea. But my guest tonight, first of all, has an incredible background as a dog person, because more or less she comes from a family who has been extremely successful. And then she has been herself extremely successful exhibitor and extremely successful breeder, extremely popular judge, and she's going to live, the best day of her life, hopefully next year in July. But we are going to talk more about that. I'm so happy and excited to welcome tonight my guest from Ireland, Ann Ingram. And welcome to Talking Dogs with Ante, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
No, thank you very much indeed for inviting me. It's a great honor for me, particularly following all the other guests you've had.
Yeah, I know you have been very excited, and I was very excited because, as I said, many times we know people from the dog world who are judges or exhibitors or whatever. But when I get when I invite somebody, I always get surprised with the things that I find out about them when I start my research. And there are so many things that I have found out about you that I want to talk about. So I hope we are going to manage to do this in more or less 2 hours. But the first thing I want to ask you, and well, I don't want to ask you anything in the beginning, because I must read at least some of the comments, because we are not even 7 minutes live, and we have 32 comments. And if I don't read some of them now, I'm going to lose them completely. So let's just do it quick, and then we start with the question. Andrea is saying, good evening from Austria. I'm super excited what we will hear tonight from Ann Ingram. Wish you great fun. Tommy is saying good evening and looking forward to the talk. Svein Erik say good evening from Denmark. Morten and Svein and Huxi. Srinivas is saying hi friends, good evening from India. Julie is saying good evening, can't wait to be amazed. Richard is saying hello from the USA. Marika is saying hello from Netherlands. Marika, hello from Zagreb. Ana Luce, hello from Rome. Yanis, hello from Athens. Bruce, hi from South Africa. Diane, good morning, Ante. I'm loving your interviews. Eya, hello from Finland. Yvonne, hello from the UK. Hi, Anne. June, hello from Ireland. Puna, aloha from Hawaii. Oliver, watching from Dublin, Ireland, as usual. Tony Moran, hi. Gordon Alesic, saying hello from your Split. Karen, hello from Israel. Anastasia Paunovic, hello from Serbia. Stefan, hello from Sweden. Tom Hehir, good evening again, and Ante from Ireland. Sole Ragnar, regards from Iceland. Looking forward to another great Wednesday evening. Dan Eriksson, good evening all. Sabine Rauchut, hello from Germany. Donna Lucas, hello from South Africa. Heather, good evening. Nick, hello from the Derbyshire Peak District in the UK. Mia Sangren, good evening. Elisa saying, looking forward to hear what Anne has to say. Hello from Finland. So 6 minutes and 32 comments, Anne. Is going to be, I think, a good evening for all of us. And I'm really looking forward to that. Anyhow, my first question will be, what was the last show that you judged? And do you enjoy your time at home? Or you miss traveling and you miss judging and you miss your friends?
The last show, strangely enough, was Crufts actually, and I was a substitute judge for Ready Sport Wales, who couldn't go, so I was doing all the AV import classes, which I have to say was quite hard work, because when I say hard work, required a lot of study, should I say, because it involved a lot of breeds that we don't normally see in great numbers. But, you know, it was actually very enjoyable too, because the people were so enthusiastic. You know, it really makes you appreciate the breeders and the people who travel so far with breeds that don't have CCs, and yet they give it all, and the atmosphere around the ring was fantastic. So that was my little did I think it would be my last judging appointment for the year, or never mind judging appointment. I don't miss the traveling now. I don't miss sitting around airports and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get the 6 o'clock Amsterdam flight out of Cork and on somewhere else, and maybe not get there at 7 or 8 o'clock that night. I certainly don't miss that bit of it. I think I miss meeting friends, of course. And I do miss the judging to a degree, but haven't really minded that much being at home either, because it actually gives you time to stop and draw a breath. And the only drawback is I've no excuse for not doing any housework now. So I had to sit doing a bit of that and general cleaning. But we were lucky too, because in the original lockdown, as you know, Ireland wouldn't be famous for good weather. But we actually did have good weather, so I was able to get a lot done outside and also spend a bit of time outside. So I think I wouldn't like it forever, but
that's for sure.
I don't mind the pause in my life actually, and it does give you time to evaluate things. I suppose the downside is you have all this time to do things, but you can't actually do anything because you're not allowed to go out of the house hardly. It's a bit perverse in that sense. It would be time to catch up with all my friends and catch up with family and some of the non-talker people that I know. But look, hopefully the end is in sight and things start kicking in.
Let's hope so, because I mean, you know, I think that in the beginning we all started, you know, by saying, oh, I don't mind so much to be at home. You know, I was spending the years of my life traveling from one place to another, packing, unpacking, and I was, you know, getting a bit tired of all of that and so on and so on. But now it's already a little bit too long, and now I think like, okay, now it's enough, and we can go back to the normal life. Anyhow, I know it's impossible to give any predictions, but when I had Sean Delmar as my guest a few months ago, well, not so, maybe a month ago, he said that there is a big possibility that there are not going to be any dog shows in Ireland till September next year, because he was saying, I think, that this exhibition center that you have was like leased to the government or whatever till the end of August. So do you know if something of that has changed, or it's still like that?
No, well, I know some of the early shows have already cancelled, but there are shows. I expect one that I'm chair of, which is down in Cork, that we have our own showgrounds. So we're still hopeful in July that show will go ahead. And there are a few shows that don't use the show centre, but definitely I think the way forward would be to follow some of the European examples and, you know, spread the show out a bit, put more of a tight timetable on when breeds are judged. The timetables in Ireland don't always work as well. You know?
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
We need to hope for the best, actually, but yeah, it's all so unpredictable that normally it's like impossible to know what is going to happen tomorrow and not to talk about next year. But anyhow, it's going to be a difficult night for me, Anne, because we have 71 comments in 15 minutes, and I really like to read them, and because then they disappear. So maybe I missed some already because they just disappear after some time because there are so many coming. But let me just say, Jen Sherry saying hello from Weymouth, Dorset. Annika Ulsveit Moy saying have super evening. Marina, hello from Moscow. Diana, this will be fascinating. Ruben Sanchez, hello from Madrid. Karin Linda, hi from Florida. And Paul saying hello from Northern Ireland. Tina, hello from Germany. Malgorzata from Poland. Andrea from Switzerland. Sean from South Africa. Christine and Rosie Kirkham saying, as a boxer owner for 32 years, I'm looking forward to this. Hello from Norway. Then we have Liesl, hello from Florida. Claudio De Giuliani from Italy. Sigiridur from Iceland. James Ingram, hi, Anne from Northern Ireland. Raquel from Portugal. Sue from Germany. Christina Bailey from Leamington. Torbjörn from Sweden. Michael from Switzerland. My guest from the last week, Philip John, hello from California. Patricia De Koning from South Africa. Ray from Malta. Wendy from USA. Sue from UK. Fanginan from China. Kevin Izzard, the wonderful Ann Ingram. Sean loved these chats. Peter Carlson from Sweden. Madeleine from Sweden. Jose Homem de Melo from Portugal. Juan Carlos Gomez from Mexico. Bidi from Kenya. Matthew Odi from the UK. Sari from Finland. Amazing. Almost 200 people watching. And Jeff Horsfell is saying, look forward to watching you judge in July. So amazing, first of all, to have so many viewers, and amazing to have so many comments. Thank you all. Keep them coming. I'm sure that in all these months that Anne has been at home, it's nice at least this way to connect with the doggy family from all around the world. So I want to start, Anne, with your family, because you are one of these dog people who were raised in a doggy family. Your mother was a boxer breeder, a very successful boxer breeder. She even judged the breed at Crafts. Your father was also a very famous terrier man. He was a professional handler. So it was in a way not strange that you became what you are today. Tell me a little bit about the story of your parents and how did that story start?
Well, they came up with very separate upbringings. My mother was actually a debutante and presented at court. And she was actually, I suppose you could say, brought up in the old-fashioned way to marry well, whereas my father was a dog man. They met through dog shows, and much against my mother's family wishes, they got married, which was a complete change of life for her. In fact, when they got married, she couldn't cook at all. My father had to do the cooking. I don't think she even knew how to boil a kettle. So that naturally, I wasn't around at that stage. So by the time I came on the scene, her cooking skills had greatly improved, I'm happy to say.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting combination to have as parents because, terrier men have a unique outlook on dogs. I think the terrier men are very much their own circle. Much more down to earth, I think, about dogs. My father's attitude to life was that you never took a dog in that didn't show twice. That was it, gone to a pet home. You didn't spend time trying to coax it around or anything like that. Whereas my mother, with the kind of softer boxer approach, was prepared to spend time trying to coax them around and get them going properly. And my father took no prisoners either. If you asked his opinion about something, you surely got it. And I remember a very well-known Northern Ireland Terrier man asking him, my father would have probably been in his 70s then, and he was showing him his pride and joy at the Ulster Fox Terrier Club. And my father looked at it and he said, do you know what? If that was mine, I'd take a spade and dig a hole at the bottom of the garden. You can imagine how well that went down.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Okay.
it wasn't unusual for us to go to shows with 14 dogs. We used to go from I was a very small child, with a lot of different dogs. So it was a great background to have. And my father also was a very good trimmer, and it was not politically incorrect to say. So he was also a genius at fixing tails and ears and things like that as
Yeah.
well. So they
Yeah.
used to come from all over Ireland for services, so they did.
Yeah. All these things that we could do before, and we
I-
cannot do well, at least officially anymore.
Absolutely. And in fact, when he was, getting the terriers ready, he always used rainwater to wash their whites with, and then he had a
Hmm.
big bin of sawdust, and he got a basin of that out, and he dried their legs off with the sawdust and let it dry, and then brush it all out. So it was completely different viewpoints in the dog show world, but of course they were both became all rounders. So it was kind of great to have that knowledge. I think it was probably an upbringing that you'd either love dogs or you'd say, "Oh my God, I don't want to see another dog in my life." But I mean, I
That's
think
that's actually what I wanted to ask you. Growing in a doggy family, obviously, in your early age, your mother and your father could understand that that's something that you also want to do. Were they happy about that, or they would have preferred that you have gone into another profession?
well, my father and I came to an agreement. He would have preferred that I earned a profession. So we agreed that if I did my exams and got the education, then I could do what I want. So of course they had a boarding house and grooming business. So I left school and joined that. My brother, who at the start used to compete in handling classes and so forth, but he actually, we also grew up with horses, but he actually became a very good rider and got his teaching exams and all that. So he went more into horses. Though subsequently work interfered with that, as it so often does. But at one stage, I mean, I used to ride a lot too, but then you had to make a decision.
Yeah.
You either went to the dogs or you went to the horses. So I decided on the dogs from a pretty early age.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because when you grow in the doggy family, I don't know, like we often meet people, and they say my mother and my father, they were doctors, so they wanted me to be a doctor. But sometimes in the doggy families, they say, oh, my father was a breeder, my mother was a breeder, but they were not so happy that I decided to be a
I
breeder
know,
too.
yeah, yeah. And actually, in fact, one of the funny stories I was told at an older age was, having grown up, or well, still very young, and with the doggy scene. Apparently, as a 7-year-old, I was giving sex education to the rest of the children in the class. The principal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that we learn early. Yes, when you have to deal with dogs and matings and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So you have been popular in school, I can imagine.
not with the principal, no, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. But well, at least among the children, that's more important. What I want to ask you, the kennel name that you have now, Terkane, that has been your mother's kennel name. How did the name come from? From what it
It
means?
was, in actual fact, she spent a lot of her childhood down with her grandmother, and the local telephone box, believe it or not, was in a tiny little place called Turkane. So that's actually
Okay.
from my father's prefix was Cranmore, which was actually from the area that he was living in. But I think probably because I went more to the boxers than to the terriers, I took a share in my mum's. I did try. I mean, at one stage I did show a couple of our fox terriers, but having used to breeds that came when they were called, I couldn't be doing with letting a terrier off the lead and trying to catch it for an hour after.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
but
that's
so
what we.
yeah, from the beginning you have actually gone more to your mother's side because you kept a lot of interest later on still with the boxers, and
Oh yeah.
I mean even now I know many times you love to judge them, and you know a lot about the lines and the breeders and so on. but not so much with the terriers.
No, no, not so much. I gave up. I gave up. I think my father was quite a bit older than my mum, so by the time I would have been in my 20s, he'd got very bad arthritis in his hands. So by the time I would have been maybe started to be more interested in the terriers, he was giving up on them. But no, my heart always went to the boxers. I mean, I dabbled with the Boston Terriers when I was a teenager. I think just to, something different rather that wasn't involved.
This is what I wanted to ask you, because I read that you made up your first English champion when you were 14 years old, and that was a Boston Terrier. And then I was thinking you were like quite smart, because your father was a terrier man and your mother had boxers, and boxers are like terriers and they look a little bit like boxers. So you found a breed which would please them both, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably just you wanted to kind of launch out for yourself, something different, really, But I find them quite a difficult breed. I mean, we're terribly fortunate because the bitch I bought in um, was from a very good breeder. And I think she was actually the top winning bitch that year. And I suspect the first CC she got, it was in the days when you had mixed gender classes, and we were over at Dumfries, and she'd been second in junior. And of course, we never thought that she could compete for the bitch CC. And we're walking around the showgrounds, and then my mother had a light bulb moment and said, "Oh my God, we should be back to go in for the CC." Never thinking that we were going to win it. So that kind of started that off. But they're a difficult breed, but they're so hard to breed. And the ones I had were terrible fighters. They'd create trouble. They'd run around the boxers and nip their heels and start off and fight well.
Yeah.
So
But why did you get a Boston Terrier in the beginning? It was just because you wanted something smaller, looking a little bit like the boxers, or there was another story?
Originally, actually, I wanted a skipper key, and then when I discovered that they only had the roughs a short time of the year, I went off them. And I actually don't know why I went to Boston, but if you think about it, an awful lot of boxer people do have Boston Terriers.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
there must have been some association there. I'm not quite sure. And I stuck with them for a few years. And actually, it was quite funny that bitch I did so well with in England. Helen Fottrell was the doyen of the breed in Ireland. And I think the bitch probably had 6 CCs on her before I managed to win a Green Star. And every time Helen would be beating me, and she'd turn around to me and she'd look at me and say, "Second again today, dear."
Okay. Yeah, well.
But we got there eventually, so we did.
Yeah, I wanted. Well, you mentioned that one of the reasons why you stopped with Boston's is because they have been really bad fighters. Was that the only reason, or there were some other reasons? Because I mean, in the time that you had Boston's, you have been extremely successful, and you had the best in show winning Boston's and record holders in CCs and whatever. I mean, you have been really successful with them.
I find them terribly difficult to breed, but I suppose I came from a background of breeds that whelp naturally, so I think they're a breed. Not so much now, but then if you really wanted to have a successful litter, you nearly needed just to decide you were going to have a cesarean, because if you let them whelp naturally, there was good chance because of the big heads that the pressure on the skull or the short noses they would drown. So if there was any delay in whelping. So I had a lot of trouble with them breeding, and I think I just got disheartened really with them, Though we kind of went back to them a bit, I suppose, about 15, 20 years ago, and that was actually quite successful too. But they screeched that particular noise. It sounded like somebody was killing them, but by side. So I think in the end, I just decided to stick with the poodles and the boxers.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, almost 200 people watching, 100 comments already. So let me read a few of them that we don't lose them, and then we continue with the questions. Sean is saying clearly very popular. Amanda, love listening to Ann's stories. She should write a book. Johanna waited this interview, so finally here listening. Brina, greetings from Colombia. Anki Johansson, hello from Finland. Thank you, Ante, for arranging such an interesting discussion with so special guests. Tina Strandberg saying, lovely to see you, Ann and Ante. Best regards from Sweden. Valerie Nunsetkis, so great, sign on late. Joanne saying, looking forward to this interview. Don't forget to say how good a singer you are too, Anne. I heard you enjoy your evening. Is that true or not?
Well, only in the bath and the shower. And
okay.
I tend to sing about the place right enough, yeah. I do.
Okay.
But
Vincenzo saying, yes?
Definitely not professionally.
Okay. No, because I was thinking if you're a really good singer, I could give you the opportunity to sing something for the viewers, but
You're
maybe
so
better.
pedantic, but I'll save
No.
I'll save it for that, definitely.
Okay. Vincenzo is saying, nice to see and listen to you, Anne. Sean saying, love straightforward people. Chetan saying, hello, good evening, you both. Elena, good evening from Spain. Jose Doval, one of the greatest ambassadors of our sport. An honor to learn from her. Christina saying, hello from snowy Austria. Britain, hello from Lerum, Sweden. Brian, very knowledgeable lady. Bruno Nodali, what a pleasure to listen. Anne, greetings from Italy. Michael saying hi. Sean saying, if you love pain, you breed Bostons or have tattoos. Okay. Let's see. Jen Sherry Sherbin Boxer saying, I remember the gorgeous boxer champion, Tirkane Lone Ranger, when I first started showing over 20 years ago when I was a teenager. So a lot of people and a lot of comments. I want Anne, in a way, to talk a little bit more about three breeds that you have been, let's say, more involved with: Lhasas, boxers, and poodles. But before that, and obviously it's not in any chronological order, can we just quickly? Can you just quickly say a few words about the breeds that in your CV you said you had for fun? So you mentioned Whippets, Beagles, Pugs, and Shelties.
That's right. My parents actually were very successful with Whippets, I don't know why they gave them up actually, but we had a lot of Whippets at home, so I was kind of that was another breed I was reared with, and a breed I actually still have a very soft spot. The Pugs were more my doing. Again, I think if you're attracted to these short-nosed breeds, and they are a delightful breed, they ignore you totally when you want them to do anything, and they run off, and they have such a lovely sense of humor. I actually had Joe Braden's breeding and bred a couple of litters, and the Shelties. I think again it was a bit like me trying to have something that was mine and nothing to do with the parents. But eventually I came back to the boxers again. But I qualified as Sheltie. I did win a couple of classes, but decent classes in England with the Pugs and the Shelties, but never made up champions in them. I think too, it's easy to accumulate too many different breeds, and then it's very difficult to concentrate on any of them.
And then it was still, I think, Beagles were mentioned.
Yeah, my brother got a Beagle, and it used to run off. And then I kind of, I'd say actually, to be fair, the Beagles were more his. But then, of course, I would be looking after them during the day while he was at work. And that was the russet lines of Beagles that we had then. But they were devils, because if you took them out for a run, the boxers would follow the Beagle. And the Beagle was cute enough to know its way home, but the boxers would just my normally obedient boxers that I could have taken anywhere without leave were suddenly disappearing over the skyline. So it didn't endear me to them dreadfully much so. But no, I think it was actually my brother really wanted the Beagle, but I showed it for a bit while he had it, and I suppose it must have lived. A couple of it won, and then we took a litter of them, but we never had very many of them. But any dog about the place got shown at some stage or another.
Yeah, and I found on your website also some Cocker Spaniels.
Yeah, that was my mum had the Cocker Spaniels. Not quite sure why, but she used to show them. And also my father used to handle a few Cockers for people, but mainly it was the terriers. So I was very young now when we had the Cockers. Probably don't really remember them at all. Yeah. But I think they made up a couple of champions with them, for sure.
So these were the few breeds that I just wanted to mention because you mentioned them in your CV. So obviously there was a short love affair with them, which didn't last too long. But I think it was worth to mention them. Anyhow, let's start with the boxers because actually that's probably the well, not probably, that's the breed that was the longest in your hands since you were born. I found on your website that you had, well, not your mother had already a best in show winning boxer in 1947.
That's right.
And then what I found, the last one that is being mentioned is from 2008. Is that more or less the period in which you had them? Tell us a little bit the story about the boxers. How did your mother get them, and then later on when you took over, how did that story go?
Yeah, when she was 19, she was in Switzerland, and she saw a boxer there, and she came back determined that she was going to get one, much against her parents' wishes. But she managed to get a puppy out of the first litter, Stone Border litter, that Ann Dawson had bred in England. So you had a puppy out of the first litter ever bred in the UK. And then she carried on with that. She formed a great alliance with Alan Dawson and worked back and forth with him. But she had a very bad accident. She fell off a horse, and she was actually on her back for a year in plaster. But during that time, she corresponded all over the world, and people were very good writing to her. So she had some wonderful history of the breed as it developed, from America, from Germany, really from all over the world. And she had so many different cuttings. People were very good in keeping in contact with her. So she actually got a second in the open dog class in the first championship show after the war. And the dog actually got a mention in the write-up as being quite a special dog. So that was kind of part of history as well. I mean, really, she would have been considered very much the doyen of the breed, both in the UK and in Ireland, and had made up several champions. She went through a period, I think, from about, I suppose, the 1950s when she wasn't showing very much because, she had me and my brother's young children. My brother was quite fortunate he wasn't born at the dog show because he'd been the day before he was born. And actually, my birthday wasn't far off St. Patrick's Day, so I was probably a bit more convenient to arrive beforehand.
Yeah.
But no, she was always very, very devoted to the boxer, until sadly she fell out of bed and had to end her days in the nursing home. But she had a boxer right up to the end of her days. But what was funny, I'd take her in pictures of dogs where I'd been judging, and of course she'd given up judging when the docking ban came in, and you'd show a photograph of a boxer with the tail. Maybe you'd given a best in show to her or a best to beat her, and she'd like, "Oh, take that nasty thing away. Oh, look at that awful tail on." Definitely, I don't think she would ever got used to those now, for sure.
But that's something that we talked with some of my guests. I mean, for these old generations of dog people, many of them just stopped at the point when they could not crop and dog anymore because they just couldn't get used to it.
I do.
So she was one of these.
She would have found it very, very difficult, and I do think in Europe the quality of boxers dropped dramatically. I mean, I remember the first time I judged them under a grading system was at the Helsinger Winter Show, and I mean, I had 90 boxers and some lovely ones really contesting the top awards. And that probably would have been, I don't know, a few years anyway before they banned the docking. But the standard of the boxer now throughout the on-dock world has definitely dropped. I think exactly as you say, an awful lot of the older breeders just dropped out, and nobody particularly replaced them, or those that did maybe weren't just quite as good or weren't looking for the same things. Certainly made a very strong influence on things, definitely.
And I mean, you obviously continued breeding boxers for many years. And which lines did you use? Was it always English lines and let's say at that point already Irish dogs, or you have been using some dogs from the USA or from Europe, from Germany, or what it was?
Not really European dogs. We did use American dog, Sirocco, Rainy Lane Sirocco, years ago. But a lot of Braxburn breeding, actually. We used Tygarth, Seafield, probably most of the um, top kennels. But of course, it was a different world then in the early days, because there were the big kennels. So if you saw something in your bitch line and you said, look, I just need to get a better front, or I need to improve the eyes, there were kennels out there that consistently produced the type you were looking for. So it's probably easier than nowadays, in that you don't have that continuity of quality so much in breeders that have been breeding the same type of a dog for all those years. So you were fairly reliable what you could get by using that dog. But mind you, have you ever noticed if anybody uses your stud dog and the pups don't turn out so well, it's always the dog's fault. It's not.
Yeah, always. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But no, we would have been, of course, in those days too. You could in the early days, you could actually put a dog in a box and put it in a plane and fly it over to all the provincial airports. Where latterly, I just had to get in the car and drive it to the stud dogs. But we also tended to not have a policy of necessarily using the big winning dogs. Tended to look at what the dogs were producing and see what dogs were producing consistent type of. And sometimes you didn't always go to the famous dogs in that sense. And boxers are difficult; they don't breed true. Your best bitches don't necessarily produce your best puppies. So that makes it a bit trickier too.
Yeah, that's true.
Although I think a strong bitch line is the answer, really. Kind of a steady type of bitch sometimes can produce you better than the top winning one in boxers. But no, I showed them. I've made up 6 English champions as well as the Irish champions, which I think is fairly unique in Ireland to be able to do that. But it involved a lot of mileage on those ferries.
I can imagine.
And sitting at the side with the wind blowing around the car and the rain in the middle of the night, and you wondered why you did it. But I think you were all about that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, we have all done crazy things. That's for sure. And why did you stop with boxers?
I injured. Well, I had supposedly a repair operation on my Achilles tendon, and I kind of recovered for that. And a year later, I ruptured it actually showing a boxer. And to this day, I won't name the judge, but I'll never ever forgive him for it. It was a class of 14, and the dog, it was actually the dog that lady mentioned earlier, Lone Ranger. He was quite a fiery dog. So I got into the ring pretty quickly to get to the top of the line, because I knew he'd lose his cool a bit going around the ring. And I turned the first corner and the Achilles tendon went, and the judge didn't even stop. The steward came over and stopped the class, and somebody took the dog off me, and I had to sit at the side of the ring while somebody else showed the dog, knowing that I'd done fairly serious damage to the leg. So that was another operation, and then a year later I damaged it again. So at one stage I actually thought I'd never be off a walking stick. So it just bit by bit by bit, the numbers went down, and I was kind of forced to. I did find it very hard. I could hardly go and watch the breed being judged for a couple of years after that. I did take it quite hard, but fortunate to have the poodles, so at least I wasn't without dogs altogether.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'd probably still have them till today.
Because I mean, but obviously, as you say, they are big breed and they need a little bit more energy and strength and everything. And obviously, this is why I think many boxers breeders at some point turn to Boston Terriers, because they want to keep the same style but something a bit smaller. Exactly. What I want to ask you, Ann, when you compare the boxers when your mother started to have them and breed them to the boxers of today, how much do you think the breed has changed? And do you think that it has changed for better or for worse?
I think there's bits that are better and bits that are worse. They've got more elegant because they were quite a stocky breed and kind of straight back ends that were fairly prevalent in those days. And in actual fact, if you saw a photograph of our first dog, the head is more like a Great Dane than it is like a boxer. I think they've got a bit exaggerated today in that they're supposed to have a sloping top line, but a lot of them have a sloping top line because their shoulders are coming out of their ears and their back end's a mile behind them. It's not quite for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Of course, when they move, the front end can get out of the way of the back end. I think it's a shame the breed is divided so much because you go to America and they're like one breed, and then you go onto the continent, they're like another breed, and the UK, I suppose, probably, and Ireland, they probably have a bit of a balance between both, which isn't such a bad thing. But isn't it strange when you think that the boxers all came from Germany to start with?
Yeah.
Brawl Stockman, the doyen, the inventor of the breed, in actual fact, I identified one of the top, what became the top winning, best in show winning boxer in America. And we all had German stock. So how did it all get so divided? I doubt it. On the continent, I think they've gone for too short faces now, and too much of their heads are getting more like bulldogs. They've got so much chin. They have an upsweep more like a bulldog than they have like a boxer.
This is what I want to ask you, because obviously you judge the breed still a lot all around the world. How difficult is to get used to judge the breed? Let's say in this part of Europe when they look completely in one way, and then you go to the UK and Ireland and they look completely different, and then you go to the USA and they look completely different. How difficult is for you to find actually what you like to see?
It can be difficult, undoubtedly. I think maybe it's one of the good things about Irish. I think Irish judges are actually very good to adapt in whatever country they're in. We don't take this is how it is in our country, so it must be in your country the same way. So I think that does help. And I suppose because I've judged them for so long in different places, I have to say, though, I judged them in Denmark. It must be 2 years ago now. And I was really quite disturbed by the breed because they just seem to have gone so far from even a European type of boxer. And I was talking to the owner of the Cassie dog, who was a really typey dog, beautiful head, but he had an awful front. He just turned his 2 feet out, horrible. And I'm standing talking to him and looking him down at this front and thinking, oh my God, should I really have given that to Cassie? And he's telling me what a wonderful dog this is and how much this dog has won. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
You have to forgive sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
But it can be difficult. And even the different way of showing them, because when you go on the continent, even though they're not supposed to double handle, the dogs have got their eye on something, and when you go to look at their heads, they're more or less saying, would you ever get out of my way? I want to see what they're calling this and this.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a pity that the Americans and the Europeans don't meet halfway, because I think each have a bit to give the other. But if you speak to the Europeans, they think the American dogs are dreadful, and when you speak to the Americans, they think the European dogs. And yet the breed stands that different. But I think that's where probably Ireland and England are a bit more, have a foot in each camp. So maybe they get the best of both worlds to a degree.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that you are still judging the breed quite often all around the world. What do you think at the moment is the biggest problem of the breed, except of the difference of type?
Yeah, that's one thing. I think this overangulation can be a problem. Straight shoulders and the overangulated rear ends, which look terribly striking when they're stood up, but isn't correct. Teeth are not good. Sometimes you're lucky if you see teeth at all in a 5-year-old dog. So mouths generally aren't very good. They did go through a period in the UK where the heads were terribly over-wrinkled. Sometimes I think judges had a thought that, oh, this head's very important. We want a big head on it, which of course isn't the case at all. You don't want a big flabby round head on it at all. But I think generally the heads actually are pretty good now. They've improved an awful lot. I think sometimes they're judged too much standing still because you don't see the construction faults so much. In America, I think probably one of the things, I actually have become slightly more Americanized now. I actually admire quite a lot of the American dogs. But one of the things that they carry through a bit is flat bone and not the best of feet. And sometimes they're a bit long and tubular, but there's some lovely dogs out there, and they really are. I suppose anywhere you look in the world, there's always the best. But countries like Italy and Spain that used to have such beautiful, beautiful boxers, absolutely beautiful ones, their quality has gone down so much. They've gone to the other stage. You're lucky if you don't see their teeth. But otherwise, I think they're not in a bad way, really. I think they've done quite well as a breed. We've got some sensible breeders out there who are still producing some good quality dogs. So I certainly wouldn't be saying, what have they done to the breed? They've destroyed it. No, I think by and large we're in a pretty good state, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Let me read just a few of the comments that we don't lose them. Let me see, where did I stop? Kevin Izzard, Carol is saying, I grew up watching and idolizing Anne in Ireland when I showed Akita Inu there. Still learning from her to this day. Thank you for all you've done in the dog world. Katarina is saying, hi, Anne. So exciting to listen to you. Heidi is saying, so nice to hear you talk. Liesel is saying, Ante, can you ask Anne who was the best boxer she has judged and what boxer would she like to have judged?
Oh, that's a fairly easy answer for me. I think Dunadran Glorylass, who was up to about 5 years ago. She was the breed record holder in England. Carrie Arvinan gave her first ticket out of puppy, and I gave her her second CC. And the day I gave her her second CC, I gave her best of breed. And the owner of the dog CC winner, who was quite a big winning dog, said to me, that's the first time he's been beaten for best of breed. And I just said, well, I think you might find it won't be the last time. And Cass went on to win, I think, 52 C's, something like that. She was absolutely wonderful. And to Philip Greenway and her breeders, I never ever saw that bitch have an off day. She was always in superb condition. She always showed. The boxer I'd love to have judged, in actual fact, I don't even know what her proper name was Scarlett, the bitch that Diego did so much
winning. Showing in the USA, yeah.
I've never seen her in the flesh, but I would love to judge her. I actually judged her sister when I was judging in Orlando, but I didn't put her up. But I think Scarlett was, looking at all the videos and everything for her, I think she was a very, very special bitch. Yeah. And I was so sorry I wasn't at the last ABC Boxer Club that she appeared at in the Parade of Champions, because I just would have loved to see her even in old age in the flesh. I think she was a very, very special one, very special.
Okay, so I'm sure Liesl will be happy with your answer. Sheena Taggart saying, so very proud that Anne is one of us, blessed to have her to look up to growing up in Ireland. Desi Murphy saying, boxer people love Anne in the States. Brina is saying a few words on the situation of Brahmi breeds and their future. Do you think other countries will follow the terrorists in the Netherlands? We can talk a little bit about that at the end of the interview. Patrick Fortune is saying, definitely giving back with the great work done with one of our best shows, Munster Agricultural Champion Show. Matteo saying, Greece and Italy unite, they're watching you and sending greetings. John is saying, Glory last had a mention. Karen, it's so nice for you to grow up in a dog family. I wish it was the same for me. Anyhow, and 150 comments in less than 1 hour and 200 people watching. So there is a lot still to talk, and okay, let me ask you just this last question from the comments, because I want to pass to another breed. Sole Ragna is saying, in your eyes, what key ingredients make a boxer outstanding?
Well, you know, I was reared by my mother, and one thing she always said to me, if a boxer doesn't have a head, it could be any mongrel running around the street. So I think that's carried through to me for so many things. So I think a boxer must have a decent head, and above all, they must have a kind expression. You should never look in a boxer's face and feel that it's threatening you. They should always look at you with nice expression and kindness. But the head is, to me, the paramount thing, and then hopefully everything else follows as well.
Yeah. Okay. Let's finish now with the boxers, because there is still a lot to talk about. In 1988, you had an extremely successful Lhasa Apso, and then you bred some more Lhasas, and you were very successful with them. I want to find out, how did you start, and why did you stop? Let's start with that.
Well, really, the Lhasa came in because of Angela Corish. We were partners then, and of course, she was involved with Fresno when Jeff was handling Fresno, and obviously very friendly with Jean. So it was really, she took a notion to have a Lhasa Apso, so Daisy arrived, and I think in a way Daisy didn't actually give us a true impression of what a Lhasa. Well, Angela already knew about Lhasas, but we kind of made her like a poodle. So she ran around with the toy poodles, and she was bright and she was chirpy, and you didn't quite realize how stubborn Lhasas were, because she thought she was a toy poodle, you know, wonderful playing around. But she was just the most amazing bitch, because you know, we were kind of newbies in the breed, and you'd go over to England and to say to you, what are you doing here? Sure, you know the judge doesn't like those glamorous kind of Americanized one, because in those days Jean Blythe had brought in Hackensack, who turned out to be such a wonderful stud dog. In fact, most Lhasas have him in the pedigree, but he was quite controversial at the time, as was Daisy's type. But I remember winning an enormous junior class under Bobby James at Birmingham, you know, in the gas around the ringside, you know, that this Lhasa had won it. But she won Show Dog of the Year in Ireland, and she won the Dog of the Year Day contest in Ireland, and we made her up an English champion. But she was actually a fun dog as well, absolute fun dog. And then we were very lucky with the litter we had. We used one of Jean's dogs, and that produced an English champion dog, and two bitches that actually started other people in Lhasas. But I mean, the reason really we gave them up in the end, we just got too many coated breeds, you know, to keep. So, in actual fact, one of the daughters went to Sarah Matthews, who we'd lent her to handle in the junior handlers, and she got on so well with her. We eventually said to her, would she like to have her? So that started her off in breeding Lhasas. But they're lovely breeds. They're really restful to live with. But my heavens, if they don't want to do something, they just stick those four paws in, and they just refuse to budge. Absolutely refuse to budge. But I actually really enjoyed them, and I actually love them as a breed. But it's a lot of work keeping those coats and everything, you know. So with the poodles and work and everything, it just became too much. Simple as that, really.
Let me just 1 second, Beltran. I got a message like the live video interrupted. Is it only for me or it's for everybody? Okay, now it seems to be okay. I don't know. Just to be sure. Okay, I don't know. Okay. As long as so everything was okay. I just wanted to be sure that everybody can hear us and see us. Talking about Lhasas, and if you think about the breed, what do you think that are the most important elements of a correct breed type in the lasses?
Well, I think balance for a start. You know, your first impression should be of a balanced dog with a nice crested neck on it, reasonable width the front. You don't want it too narrow in front, and a little bit of length, but not too much length. And of course, strong hind quarters. The head you don't really see until you get your hands on them. And I think I judged them in England a couple of years ago, and I have to say I was appalled at their mouths. They were absolutely dreadful. I know they're not an easy breed, but they were absolutely dreadful. Both the shape of them, the number of teeth they had, just kind of everything about the mouths was very poor. But equally well, some lovely dogs, you know. So the standard was very, very good. But I mean, I think I always get my best impression going around the ring, you know, when you first get them in and watch them going around to see that nice balance, that not exaggerated movement, good carriage. You always want good carriage, don't you, in them?
And talking about that, what do you think at the moment is the biggest problem of the breed?
Well, mouths, definitely, I think, and fronts. I think fronts have always been a bit of a problem with them. And sometimes they can be so disappointing when you judge them, because you kind of watch them and you think, well, that's going to be my winner, and then you get your hands on them. And the fronts are just dreadful. Both turning the feet out and loose elbows and all this sort of thing. So I think I've been trying to say fronts are the biggest problem. And mouths. Generally heads aren't too bad, but expressions are generally good. So I think I would say definitely front.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's go to the breed that you still have at home, and that in a way we can say most of the dog people connect you with poodles. I want to ask you for the start, because checking a little bit your website, I can see that you have had poodles now for over 40 years. How did your love for poodles start? Because that's quite different from the boxers and the terriers. That has obviously been something completely new to you. How did you get your first poodle?
It was really my mother, and she got a white poodle, and my father was very against it. You know, terrier man, poodle, toy poodle, my God. And you know, these dogs are very smart. Who do you think this little white toy poodle bitch honed in on but my dad? And it wasn't too long till she was sitting down the side of his chair making googly eyes at him, and you know, suddenly he was a poodle man. So we actually started with some whites from the Panhaven kennel. And we had a couple of local breeders who were extremely helpful over the trimming. Without them, Eva Blair, Elsie Kells, without them, I don't know how we would ever really would have learned to trim them, because you know, when you get a breed like poodles, it didn't matter if you had the best one in the world. If you couldn't trim it, well, you know, forget it.
Yeah.
So we did a bit of winning. We made up, I think, 2 or 3 Irish champions with the whites, and then we started to go into the other colours with apricots, and then we went into the blacks, and then laterally into the apricots again, having given them up for a while. Going back into the apricots, I have to say, was down to my partner Kay. She almost snuck one into the house. She'd had a love for the apricots, and she'd had a really, really nice apricot dog that somebody do. So a little apricot bitch puppy arrived on the doorstep, and thankfully she turned out very well, and she also produced very well. And by using some Danish dogs and Solness breeding, we actually managed to produce some really nice ones. I think, you know, there used to be saying about apricots, not bad for an apricot.
Yeah, that's true.
Trying to the apricot. So I said to Kay, if we're going to have apricots, I'm not having apricots. They're not bad for apricots. I'm going to have that can beat the blacks. And I think we fairly successfully accomplished that. And it's funny, the different colours have different temperaments in the poodles too. The apricots have absolutely gorgeous temperaments. They're really cute, and they're just their own very personalities, you know. So we ended up basically with the blacks and the apricots, but it was really my mum that started it off.
Oh, okay. This part I didn't know. This part I didn't know. What I want to ask you, obviously you have been most successful with the toys. You had some really successful miniatures too. You never wanted to try a standard?
No, definitely not. Though I actually do like them. I mean, I think their temperaments are lovely. But I tell you, when you see people having to dry those and the length of time it takes, even in the grooming parlor with a pet one, no, thank you. And I think actually, by the time I got so involved with the poodles too, the legs weren't so good. So I think definitely the toys and the miniature were quite enough.
Yeah.
So there was enough work in that without getting.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Yeah. What I want to ask you, you have mentioned it by yourself about apricots. Why do you think it is so much more difficult to get a good apricot than other colors?
You see,
Well, not all the other colors,
yes,
but
years ago, there were very good apricots in England. The Rossbridge kennel had some beautiful apricots, and there were a few other kennels that specialised in apricot. I mean, Claire Coxhill bred very nice apricots. And I don't know whether it was a gene pool situation or whether just you had to be particularly interested in the colour. But oh yeah, sorry, Kay's reminded Lena Moody, very good with the Rossbridge. So there were a few very dedicated breeders that did actually produce a very nice type, and then they just seemed to get really quite ugly. And they split the colours in the other sizes except the toys. And I mean, I'd find when I was judging them, you'd be given excellence to dogs you'd barely give a very good to in the other colours, so the standard of them went really down. And I think Solby Nest of the Solness kennels in Europe did an enormous work by crossing them into black lines to produce really nice apricots again. I think now too that the red colour is recognised. There used to be, I mean, I remember an Irish judge coming back once and saying, I had to disqualify so many poodles for being reds. And I said, well, I'll stop you there. There aren't that many real reds. So if you disqualified a lot of poodles, they weren't reds, they were just deep apricots. I think so. I think the colour now is beautiful as well. But I'm really glad to say there's some beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I actually gave an apricot best of breed at Crofts. I think it was Francesco Cocchetti said to me, "You're the only person who could have found an apricot to give best of breed to at Crofts."
Yeah, and did you obviously with your lines did you mix between the colors?
Yeah, we did a bit. Yeah, but laterally, probably our best apricots weren't. We didn't directly mix the colours, but there was mixed colours behind them because we did breed quite strongly into the Solness line, and it really did give us terrific quality. I mean, we made up English champions in apricots, and they won. And next, in fact, we've the only apricot toy ever to win the world winner, best of breed. So that's quite something,
Yeah, that for sure.
Yeah, Spice Gold. She was quite a character. Only 10 inches too, so that was exceptional as well. It's not so easy with the smaller ones either. So
yeah. This is what I want to ask you, because you mentioned it a little bit before, and actually it came to my head many times, but I never asked anybody about it. Why are the poodles divided by colors in all the sizes except in toys? Toys always go all together. Why is that?
I actually don't know who thought that up. But in some way, I think the idea was really to give the colours a chance because it was so hard. The blacks and whites were generally the best. So I think it was done for the best of reasons. But I'm not sure it was a good reason because, at least in toys, if you want to win with a coloured toy, it has to just compete against everybody else. Whereas with the other sizes, you can still get cassives and without having to come up across all the tough competition. But I have to say, at one stage, I think it was in Italy, I was judging them, and it was standards. And I was actually sorry that they didn't compete each other because I had an absolutely outstanding apricot dog, and I would have been actually delighted to put him over the best of other colours. So that was kind of unusual. I actually don't know what the thinking behind it was at all. And I mean, I hate the word for apricot now. They call them fawns. I mean, what a name to call them. Oh, horrible. Horrible.
Okay.
I really don't
Okay.
know.
I want to ask you another thing, and this is about in general about showing the poodles. Um, are you pro or against hairspray when showing?
Pro, I have to say. I can't,
Okay.
I just can't see the sense in it because um, it's a beauty contest, a bit of spray in the top knot. What I don't like, and I don't like it as a judge, and I never did it as exhibitor, is when it's sprayed right through the coat and it's like candy floss. You can't get your hands through the coat, you know, if you're going over the dog. But I think a bit of spray holding the top knot up. And actually, I could tell you a story about that. We were over the World Show in Herning, and I think it was a junior dog, was our first dog in. So I went round to a few, including Solvay Ness and Mikkel Nielsen, and said, "Are you using hairspray today? You know, is it allowed here or not?" And they all said, "Oh no, no, we're not using hairspray, not at all, no." So we double banded and banded the young dog's top knot without hairspray. And then I looked round and the hairspray was coming out of the handbags from under the tables and everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that has been there has been a lot of talking about that World Dog Show because definitely a beautiful toy that Toshi had and won Best in Show was definitely sprayed and I mean looked beautiful. But yeah,
Indeed.
this is one of the things. And what about I always forget what is the correct word. What about these extra pieces of hairs
Oh,
that they put in the top knots? How you call them?
hair pieces.
Yeah,
It's switches. Sorry, Kay said
switches.
switches. Yeah.
Switches, yes.
Um, honestly can't see. It's not done so much in Europe, but in America, I think they feel they're not dressed if they haven't got the switches in. Um, I mean, I've watched them with fascination doing it, and the length of time putting them in, and then taking them back out again and everything. I mean, I can't see why you can't just grow the hair, but I imagine if they've got bad coats, it can transform them. And I have watched in America, watching some of the little white toys getting ready, and they've wee thin, wishy-washy coat on them and a thick skull. And by the time they put the hair pieces in and pull the top knot up and all the rest of it, you end up with a very nice looking toy poodle.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not an Andrew Brace. I don't look for the switches.
Yeah.
But
He really likes to look for it.
he does, absolutely. I've never felt the need to do that. But I can't really see why they're necessary. But I think in America, it's just, you know, it's the way it is, and everybody uses them. And if you don't use them, they'll probably not look as well coated. So it's just the thing. But I'm not saying they're never used in Europe, but they certainly wouldn't be as widely
Yeah,
used
yeah.
in Europe as well.
And I mean talking about the coat and all this, how difficult is to keep a poodle in the show condition?
It is difficult. It requires a lot of work, and I have to say, I have to give my partner Kay great work for that because I used to do the bathing and trimming, but she always did the brushing, and she was minutely particular about it, and she never lost a hair. And you know the conditioning of the coat and all that to get really good coats because okay you can keep it mat free, but you don't want to be ripping coat out at the same time.
Yeah.
So some coats are easy. Some of the mature coats are actually very easy to keep, but particularly when they're changing coats, they can be very difficult. Particularly some of the colours. You could brush them this morning and they'll be matted up again this afternoon.
Yeah.
And the important bit is not to lose the hair at the back of their neck. If you lose that, they're terrible.
Yeah.
They look terrible.
And what about general health with the toy poodles? Do you have a lot of health issues in the breed or not?
Not really. No, they're pretty good. I mean, years ago, slipping patellas was a big problem, but you don't really see that very much now. And thanks to the PRA testing, PRA isn't a great problem now either. So generally, they're fairly long lived. You know, it wouldn't be unusual to have a toy poodle 14, 15 years old and still reasonably fit at that
Yeah,
age.
that's great. Yeah. And when you think about a toy poodle, what do you feel that makes one toy poodle really great? What when you judge toy poodles, what do you want to find in your winner?
Well, I think with all poodles and the toy poodle too, you need style. You have to have them stylish. They have to be light on their feet. They have to have attitude. Um, that lovely, small, dark, sparkling eye looking at you with a twinkle in the eye, kind of looking at you, say, "What do you think you're looking at?" Um, I like a refined head, of course, a little bit of a chin, the reasonable underjaw, and I like a bit of chiseling in under the eyes, just gives them that character. Um, but I think carriage means so much. I really, really think it's such an intrinsic part of the poodle. In actual fact, over movement, a very good friend of mine, a Frenchman who probably speaks better English than I do, he said there was no direct translation from the French description of a poodle movement into English. So I think that's why it kind of gets a bit misinterpreted when judges are looking at it. It is supposed to be kind of a very light dancing movement, but that doesn't mean they should be, picking their front feet up like a hackney pony, or else tremendous reach and drive like that you might see in an Afghan. But I love attitude too. I love a toy poodle that is able to stand four square in front of you and sort of twinkle up at you. I think that makes an awful difference between a good dog and a great dog.
Yeah, and tell me, what do you think at the moment is the biggest problem of the breed?
I think sometimes, well, one of the biggest problems with poodles generally is when you put your hands on them, they haven't got the depth of brisket, and you're not looking for four chest on them like some of the working dogs, but you like something that the elbows hang off. So quite often when you go down the front, there's nothing between the front legs at all. So consequently, when they move, the elbows are flapping all over the place. Um, I think the nice thing about poodles is they're relatively the same all over the world. Presentation might be a bit more in one country than another, but generally type is the same. So I think the fronts and lack of body would be one of the main things.
Yeah.
I do hate to see a poodle plodding, sort of workmanlike head poked forward. I absolutely hate that. So I do really hate it. But I think fronts would be, again, you see what you see isn't what you get necessarily.
Yeah.
They can look. I can remember actually judging a group in Sweden, and it was a very, very big winning dog, a very big winning dog. I think he was a dwarf or a miniature. Gorgeous head, and I walked up to him and thought, this is definitely my winner. And I put my hand on him, my hand went straight through his front legs, and he was skin and bones, he was like a chicken to go over. And it was just such a shock. And Kay was with me that day sitting at the ringside, and I said, "You think I've lost my marbles not giving this dog?" So sometimes you can get nasty shock actually when you go over the dogs, definitely. Hairdressing.
That's the difference between coated breeds and short coated breeds. Because with the boxers, for example, what you see, you get, and with the poodles, yes, as you said, if somebody is smart with cutting them, he can make miracles. That's true.
Where it's important as a breeder and grooming them and so forth. Well, as a breeder of any breed, you can try and fool the judges, but don't try to fool yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
You need to have a fair idea. And then for trimming, if it needs a bit more height of leg, well, then you take the underneath of it completely short. And, different things you can have a look at. If it needs a bit more bend to stifle, you can do a little bit of sculpturing, shall we say.
Yeah.
But you need to know, you need to understand what the dog's problems are, sort of thing.
Yeah, so I remember.
Yourself.
I remember many years ago. Well, let's say maybe 20 years ago, I was traveling quite a lot around with my friend Sasha from Serbia. He used to show poodles, and he was and he still is a very talented poodle groomer. And I remember he had a white toy from Japan, from Toshi, and we went to one dog show in Macedonia. That must be more than 20 years ago. And there was a local judge who was judging the breed, and I was standing ringside because he has asked me to make some photos for him. And she had the student judge, the judge, and when he put the dog on the table, she turns to the student judge and she say, the most important thing when you are judging the poodles is that you never, ever touch them, because if you mess all this coat, the groomer is going to kill you. So I said, okay. And she really didn't do anything. She has just opened the bites and that was it. I said, okay, that's a strange direction to go. But yeah, well, obviously there have been some people who thought that was the best way. Anyhow, there we stop with the poodles, and let me just read a few of the comments. Let me see. Where did we stop? Okay, we were losing a little bit this connection, but everybody was writing that everything is okay now. Paul Russell is saying, I'm loving every minute of it. Debbie Pearson is saying, so glad I'm in a breed that doesn't have any big problems with mouths and teeth. James Ingram was saying, ask Anne about her toy poodles. Well, obviously, we spoke a lot now about the toy poodles. Debbie Pearson is saying, I so respect poodle people. The amount of hard work is phenomenal. Peter Akkad is saying, very interesting so far. Ken Croc, no, is saying he lost the connection. Alistair Moss is saying, Ante, can you ask Anne what was the best poodle that she has judged? And given the chance, which would she have loved to judge that she never got the chance to?
Well, I'll start with the one I love to judge. And I actually would have loved to judge the bitch that went best in show at Westminster this year. I think she's absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. The best poodle I've ever judged goes back a bit. Actually, it was an English dog that stuck out in my mind. I mean, I've judged so many beautiful, beautiful poodles, but it was a dog called Fabulous Freddie Steady Go, I think it was. And it was quite funny that day because it was a big, in those days, the entries for toys were very good. And because he was such an easy winner, I never looked at him again. And I became quite friendly with Ann Evans after that. And I remember her telling me and the daughter that they were looking at each other and said, look at that, she hasn't even bloody looked at the dog, no. So then they were totally gobsmacked when he won. I suppose, the other close runners would be, I had some wonderful dogs at the World Show in Amsterdam. The miniature bitch I gave best of breed to was a beautiful, beautiful bitch as well. So there's been lots, but that particular dog as a toy I thought was really, really good.
Yeah. Peter Akkad is saying, super interview, perfect to learn about poodles and getting into the breed. Tony Moran is asking you, what is Anne's opinion of these party color poodles?
I think the same as Tina's. It's actually a very difficult position to be as a judge, because if you're judging them in Germany, they are recognized. I think the problem is that to date, they're not really the same type as a poodle. It's not even just the color that's a problem. I do think in the future they'll become quite popular because they get big prices for them. I think it's a bit silly to call them something totally different as a breed. But if I met one in the ring now, I certainly wouldn't be putting it up. But they have much stronger heads. The breed type is completely different anyway. But I don't think I'll be giving one of them a Cassie just yet.
Yeah. Fiona Boxer is saying very educational. Inga Seal is saying best wishes from Estonia to Anne, and a lot of more comments, but we will catch on that later on. I want to ask you, Anne, about your breeding strategy. How do you choose the dogs that you are going to mate? And do you think differently, for example, when you were breeding boxers or Boston Terriers or Lhasas or Poodles? Did you use different methods, or you always have the same idea in your head?
Well, I suppose to agree the same idea, because I always like to study the offspring of dogs in the ring, what different lines are producing, what sort of type they are. So as a generalization for both lots, that you would think the same. I think in boxers, I was greatly in favour of inbreeding and probably quite close breeding too, which you wouldn't be allowed to do now, because boxers don't breed through at all. So I think, I mean, obviously you used to have to go out sometimes to get an outcross, but it rarely worked. And so we were very much in favour of inbreeding with the boxers. With the poodles, I think it's a bit different. I think if you have a good bitch and you mate it sort of sensibly, you have a reasonable chance of getting something nice. The consideration, of course, with the toys is size too. With the European lines, you have to have a good look at the pedigrees and make sure there's not dwarf breeding in behind them. That will come out. But I certainly am a great believer in looking at what dogs produce. And, you know, if you see a dog that's produced, you know, 4 or 5 that you like the type of, and you think would tie in with your own line, I'd be very inclined to that. I do believe very much that the strength of any kennel is in the bitch line. If you've got a good, strong bitch line, I think that's actually more important than having the stud dogs, because you can always go out somewhere for the stud dogs. With the apricots, it was difficult because there weren't that many lines available. There are stud dogs to use that you would want to use within easy reach, so we actually had to send them into Europe quite a lot. So the gene pool was fairly narrow in that. But no, definitely I'd be more inclined to look at what dogs are producing and have a good idea of what the pedigree is behind them. Of course, as Tina said, you wouldn't actually be wanting to use an ugly dog. And, you know, it's a funny thing when I'm thinking about that. You know, what I find interesting, you know, when you're judging breeders groups and progeny group, and it's nice when you see somebody that started off with an average sort of a one, and then they had the progeny there, and you say, you know, this breeder's doing pretty well. These young ones are better than the mother. And then perversely, they could start off with a nice one, and you think,
what happened?
What happened here? You kind of feel like saying to the breeder, what on earth? Or even worse, they come in then with the same group, only with the father, and then you look at the father and you think, what on earth possessed you to use it? Like, you know, so that I find those actually situations are quite interesting, you know, to see how the breeders groups stack up and the progeny groups stack up, you know. That's a fine demonstration of, you know, how people do progress and things like that. But certain kennels are you know, fairly well that they're going to produce a certain type of dog. And temperament's important too. It's no use having the best dog in the world if it doesn't show itself off, you know. They can all be champions in their own backyard.
Yeah. And did your parents think about breeding in the same way, or they used or they were thinking differently?
I think probably fairly much the same, actually. My father had quite a kennel of terriers, and then because he handled, he had access to quite a lot of different bloodlines, and he would have kind of managed the breeding program for people and that sort of thing. Whereas I suppose my mother and I were breeding the boxers together, though I did have my own distinct line. Mine began with an A originally, and Mum's all began with a T to distinguish them. So I suppose I was definitely influenced by their methods, and basically carried it on. I suppose that's a great advantage of judging around the world too, because it gives you a great overview of the breed and where the quality is and who the breeders are that are producing the good dogs. So I think that, in actual fact, that's really how we managed to get such a good line with the apricots, because I saw a dog when I was judging in Sweden, a Solness dog, and we sent a bitch over to him, and then he produced our first English champion in that colour. So it is a great advantage when you're seeing
of course.
And talking to breeders.
Yeah, of course. And what I want to ask you as my last question about breeding, when do you choose the puppies? When do you choose, let's say, the puppy that you are going to keep for yourself, or decide which puppies are the show quality and which are the pet quality? And does that differ from one breed to another?
In actual fact, quite often when they're still wet after being born, both in both the boxers and the poodles. Obviously, with the next thing when they grow, they start running about. The poodles don't tend to go off, where boxers can go off terribly. So you need to remember, if you picked it as born, then you still like the same one at 8 weeks old. Just forget about it. Don't bother looking at it till maybe it's 9 or 10 months old, because they can grow in different stages, get very lanky. The heads can go off, also go down on their feet, all sorts of things in the boxer. And actually, I can remember Lone Ranger, the owner of the stud dog. I'd said to him I had a really nice puppy bias dog, and I was quite hopeful of it. And he called in one day to see it, and unfortunately, Toby was at one of those horrible stages. And he looked at me, I looked at him. I know, Tony, what you're thinking, but honestly, he used to be nice, and he will be nice.
Yeah, it's more obviously all the people say it's much more difficult with the big breeds than with the small breeds. They say small breeds don't change so much, but big breeds, yes, a lot.
I think one of the hardest breeds to pick puppies in is Lazzas. They change so much. Oh my heavens. They're very, I can see why Lazza people quite often run on the whole litter to pick 9 months old to see what they look like.
Yeah, that's true also. Okay, this is let's say the first part of my questions when we're talking about your breeds, a little bit about breeding. Let me just read you 2 comments. David Guy saying Ann is a true dog person, true and true. Fiona Harkness saying I could listen to Ann for hours on breed type on both poodles and the bull breeds. And then Svein Erik Björns is asking, can you ask Ann about why is so many poodles having weak underjaw nowadays compared to before?
And I fact, one of the tricks that poodle people do, and I think it's a complete giveaway, is they grow the hair a bit longer on the underjaw to make it look as if they have a strong underjaw. I think it's partly because it's a fault people get away with, basically. People are looking for a nice, long, refined head. And they don't seem to pay so much attention to that underjaw, and it makes such a difference. Just that little bit of chin, a nice tight scissor bite, and it just gives so much difference to the whole head type. But I probably blame the judges for that, because they win with them, and they've no reason to particularly care about it too much. But there's really no excuse for it. It shouldn't happen. It does. You see, that type of a head, I tend to describe it as a carrot head. They've got the length, they've got the refinement, but they don't actually have the work and the chiseling that makes it a really nice head. It's just the length, I think you might have frozen, Auntie.
Comments already.
Yeah, sorry, you seem to have frozen there.
Yeah, I lost it. I don't know. I lost it when you were saying about people leaving more hair on the underjaw.
Oh yeah, I tend to call that a carrot head, because they have the length on the head, but they've no depth to it, and they tend not to have the chiseling under the eyes too. That just makes the head very special. But I think it's just a fault that people get away with, so that they actually don't pay as much attention to it as they should.
Yeah.
But once you see a hairy chin, you know that there's
you know what is the thing. Yeah, but I mean, do you know why is that happening? Or is it just that people don't care about it, or there is another problem why poodles are losing the underjaws?
I think it's probably because they're going for the refinement of the head and the length of the foreface. And I think then that can lose the underjaw, unfortunately. And it would be a relatively common fault. You see, isn't it a funny thing in breeds, and I'm not talking about poodles, but thankfully you don't ever see it. But if you see an undershot dog when it's meant to have a scissor bite, it gets chucked out immediately. But if you see an overshot dog, quite often it still does okay, and people disregard that. It's certainly not treated as severely as a dog would be.
Yeah. There are a few breeds like collies and these breeds where it happens quite a lot. Anyhow, let's do now some quick questions, and then after that, I have a few more questions about other things for you. Let me see. This let me just find it, because I was like, this is definitely going to you will probably be answering differently to this question after July next year. But for the moment, which appointment you would consider to be the highlight of your judging career?
I've had, I think, probably doing Best in Show at Helsinki a few years ago was a fantastic experience. And apart from, I think it was the Group 5 winner that was a touch unfortunate, but however, the rest of the group winners were just absolutely stunning. And I mean,
I remember, but that has been already some years ago.
A long time ago.
Because I was placed third in the Best in Show under you with Dalmatian, yes, and I looked completely different than what I look nice now. So I know it was a long time ago.
I didn't remember. I didn't actually remember that so long ago. I mean, judging, and this is a few years ago, judging Group 9 at the World Show, or the European Winter Show in Dublin, was fantastic. I mean, the atmosphere in that group ring, the Russians were calling for the Russians, the Italians were screaming. So that also was a fantastic. I think probably judging at Windsor was a fantastic show too. But you know, sometimes it's the small shows that you actually enjoy as much as the big ones.
Yes, Beltran is telling us that we are experiencing. Okay. What, it's frozen or what it is? Okay. Okay. Beltran said that we have experienced small problems, but that everything is fine. Yeah. If you can't see it, just refresh the page and it's going to work perfectly again. Just a small problem with the connection. Next question for you, and among all the breeds that you had at home, which breed you would consider to be your heart breed, let's say?
That is a hard one, because I still, with all I don't have the boxer, I still maybe have a slight longing to have another one. Mind you, I'm not sure if I'd still like the slobbers and the hair so much. So right at this moment, I have a little white toy poodle that is definitely my heart dog. So I suppose I'd have to say the toy poodle, but the boxers would be a very, very close run there. Definitely. Absolutely.
My next question is about favorite boxer of all times, not bred or owned by you, and the toy poodle, but you have already answered that. So the next question will be, in your opinion, the best dog you ever bred?
That's a hard one now. I think probably in the toys, probably the last black dog that I showed, because he had everything as a show dog and as a personality. You know, it's not often you get everything together in the same dog. He was a beautiful dog. He, you know, you'd take him over to England, you would take him over on the continent. He ate. He sat in the car, slept for 5 hours or whatever. I mean, he was just one of those wonderful dogs. That was Turkey and the Big Issue. He was the top toy poodle in the UK 1 year, and we got the CC at Crufts. But he was just a complete pleasure to live with.
Yeah.
Just an easy dog, and you get him ready. Well, I have to say, Kay got him ready. He always did the top nuts. But he'd lie on the table for hours asleep, and yet the minute you set him down on the ground, he was
perfect.
He was ready for going, and the bigger the atmosphere, the better he liked it, sort of thing. So I think he would kind of have to top the toy poodle league, you know.
Yeah. And tell me, what would be the favorite win with your own dogs?
I think certainly winning at the World Show with the apricot bitch was really fantastic. It was quite funny too because we booked the plane to go back that night. We'd driven to Germany and flown from Germany. And then when she got best to breed, it actually like it spoiled a bit of the celebration that day because I spent the rest of the afternoon on the phone trying to rearrange travel home.
Yeah.
Then it dawned on me that we were in Sweden and that everything ran to time. So we actually literally had the car engine running as she came out of the group and jumped into it. So I think that was just absolutely amazing. And the other, what I thought was such a special occasion was actually representing Ireland at the Eukanuba finals in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I mean, the Irish, you'd have thought there were a million Irish people there every time you went.
Yeah. Oh, they were cheering. Yeah. One breed you never had at home and you would love to.
I think Tony Moran's still listening. His Tibetan Spaniels have rather enchanted me. I wouldn't mind having the Tibetan Spaniel. The only problem is their hair. It goes everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, but still they are much easier for grooming than poodles, no doubt about that.
But I don't know whether they're all like his, but his are wonderful and so well behaved, and they're delightful visitors to have.
Yeah. And okay, before I continue with my questions, there is a question from Sergio Amian. He says there is no perfect dog, but what fault do you think is the worst?
Oh, I don't know that there's a generalization because some faults in some breeds are worse than in others. I mean, one of my pet hates in some breeds, you know, like say like a Staffy or a Labrador, is if you know, if their tail, you know, you see them standing, you think this is very nice, and then off it goes and the tail goes up like a fox terrier. I absolutely detest that. But I don't think you could generalize as a general fault because some breeds, you know, some faults are more important.
Yeah, of course, yeah, from one to another. Anyhow, you just became an owner of the Tibetan Spaniel. Tony Moran is writing in the comment, "I'll send you one." So I think you got your Christmas present. And the next question is dog person not alive anymore that you miss the most?
I mean, I know so many people have said Hasser, and I miss him terribly. He was like a mentor to me. But another person, or two people, I'm going to be greedy and name a couple here. I think Terry Thorne has been an enormous loss to the dog world, and also I was terribly fond of him myself. I mean, he was such a good ambassador. And Marion Spavin, my heavens, to be on a judging panel with Marion, you were surely not going to be disappointed. And not only was she a tremendous company and a great judge, but my goodness, didn't she produce some fabulous dogs? Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. If you would need to say one breeder that always impressed you with the quality of his dogs, one from Ireland and one from the rest of the world, who would you mention?
I think from Ireland you couldn't go past Harry O'Donoghue. I mean, look at the terriers he has produced year in, year out, and sent around the world. I mean, he's just produced some fabulous dogs. Just absolutely amazing. In the rest of the world, it'd be hard to get past Dan Erickson. Look at the quality of Scotties he's produced over and Labradors. I mean, I can name the Hagstrons with the Irish Terriers have also been phenomenal producer guys. Spagnoli with the Labradors. I know you said one, but you know, in Ireland we do terribly well, you know.
Yeah. These are definitely some of the most successful breeders. Absolutely. Okay. Can we try to imagine one thing? There is a World Dog Show in Dublin, and you are not judging there, but you are showing. You have a top quality dog. Under which Irish judge you would like to win Best in Show?
I think Michael Leonard.
Michael Leonard. Okay. You have 3 different litters at home, and you can invite 3 judges outside of Ireland to help you to pick up the best puppy, which three you would invite?
Well, I'd have to invite Andrew. That would be for sure. I think I'd invite Sigurd Wilberg. The only trouble is he might buy it. And I might keep it. That's the only thing about that.
Yeah, definitely. He comes and he says, I like this one and I want to buy it, and then you are in a problem. Yeah.
And probably Guy Spagnoli, actually.
Okay, that will be a nice company. Tell me, if you would need to thank 5 people, doesn't matter if they are still alive or they are not alive anymore, who help you to become what you are today in the dog world, which 5 people you would thank?
Oh, that's a tricky one now. I mean, I think obviously my parents, because without them behind me, and they weren't always, believe me, an easy ticket. I got my ears well pinned back on occasions for judging and so forth. So it wasn't always an easy ride. So I would obviously have to thank them. Andrew Brace, I would have to thank. Margaret Everton, she was the lady in Midland Counties that really gave me the big break in judging groups in England. Which at that time really was quite a big leap of faith to her. Harry O'Donoghue, again, I learned an awful lot from Harry on being on panels. And an actually about Hans Lennon, because it was actually, I was judging in Australia with Hans, and I was terrified of him when I first met him. He just seemed so knowledgeable and quite strict appearance, if you know what I mean. So I was really kind of spoken to. And he stopped in the middle of the judging at one stage. It was in Perth, in Australia, and came over to my ring and said, I would like to invite you to come to Helsinki to judge. And that actually was the first time I judged with grading system then. So I suppose those would probably be the people that would be most influential in my life.
Wonderful. We had a question from Crystal Davis, which is the same question that I want to ask you now. I don't obviously need the name, but you can say the breed and the occasion. One or few dogs that you judged and you will never forget.
That's a hard one. In actual fact, one of them you would be very familiar with. I judged in Slovenia. It was the Lazo Apso that was bred in Australia. I thought that dog was just absolutely stunning. The Akita bitch that I gave Best of Show to at Windsor, and I was in the fortunate position, though I actually didn't know it at the time, but I judged the breed when she broke the breed record, and my heavens, the atmosphere around that ring. So that will stay forever in my mind, And then the Springer Spaniel, I actually got Best in Show to Midland Counties. She was beautiful. So those sort of dogs stay with you, forever.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. I got a message from Andrew like a few days ago, because he always thinks about something that could be interesting, and he said, I think I have a question that would be interesting for the judges who are judging a lot. So he says you can try to ask some of them, and it says, if you were offered to judge 3 national specialties in the USA in the breeds of your choice, what would they be?
I thought Andrew's been very quiet tonight, actually.
Yeah, it's very strange that he didn't post any comments, and I think it's because he has this how you call it, a watch party, and then when you have a watch party, you actually comment in your watch party, and the comments are not coming in my comments, because it's very strange that he didn't write anything. So
very light there, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely love to do boxers, and I actually was nominated at one stage for the APC, but unfortunately I didn't win the vote. Standard poodles, I would love to do. I think they're stunning in the States. And as a third breed now, what would I like to do? I might actually like to do whippets, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I think that would be very good fun too. But I mean, the nationals out there are just fabulous, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then last one of the quick questions is there a young person you recently met that you think could have a great future in dogs?
Recently met now.
But it doesn't need to be recently.
How young is young too?
I don't know.
That's a hard one to answer. I mean, in Ireland we have a couple of really, really good breeders. But I say how young is young. James Newman, Sean Carroll's nephew. I've known him since he was a junior handler, and he's just bred such lovely Pomeranians. He's such a great handler, and with the pups. Diane Richard with the red setters is fantastic. But I mean, I'm not talking about teenagers here. She's produced some lovely ones as well. And as a country of young people, I think Iceland's fantastic. They've got so many young breeders and enthusiastic people involved in the dog world. So I think they've got a few people that are potentially going to be extremely successful people.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, we are going now back to these little bit longer questions. What I want to ask you, or first what I want to say, is that I read that you had your first judging appointment when you were 16 years old. Then you awarded CCs for the first time in 1977. You became an all-rounder in 1984. So it's been a while that you have been going around and judging. How did you feel when you got the invitation to judge Best in Show at Crafts?
Words fail me, to be honest. I mean, I was lucky in that I had already been invited to do the pastoral group, actually the year before this year. So I was already going, wow, I'm doing a group.
Yeah.
But stunned, shocked. It wasn't anything I'd ever dreamed of, because you just don't think that could ever happen to you. You really don't.
Exactly.
It's just wow, absolutely. And then maybe in another way, almost scared, because the eyes of the world are definitely on you, aren't they? And you think, God, I hope I don't fall over walking into the ring or something. But no, absolutely. I just feel so honored being invited. And then sometimes you think of other people that maybe should have been invited, and you kind of feel for them as well. But look, you take what you get. You're in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think we are all extremely looking forward to see that happening next year. What I need to ask you, because that's obviously, I suppose, something that would come to every person in his head. How long did it take after you got the invitation to ask yourself, oh my God, Anne, what are you going to wear to judge Best in Show and Crafts?
Well, I can assure you, I have great dressers who are already trying to kit me out in Lisa Nelson and Leanne Moss.
Okay.
They're determined. They're going to do the whole scenario. The only thing, I have to restrain them a little bit, that it won't be too glitzy, and if the spotlight hits it, it'll blind the dogs.
Yeah. Okay, so
back at being a woman, isn't it? You see, nobody'd ever ask what a man's going to wear, but a woman's.
This is what I was. This is what I was thinking. Like, for us, it's there is not a lot to think about, because you put a suit and you put a tie, and that's it, more or less. But I think for a lady, it must be much more difficult. But important, obviously, that Lisa Nelson is saying Anne has personal shoppers, so that's good that you are. And then another thing, what I want to ask you, did you ever think during this year, oh my God, Anne, you got the invitation to judge Best in Show at Crafts, and now this stupid coronavirus case, and it's going to spoil it all? Did you think about that too?
Well, it's funny, because at last year's Cropsdale McDonald was Best in Show, and each day went by, and we were all nearly expecting it to be cancelled on a day by day, and she was naturally enough very, very anxious about it. And I have to say, at Crufts this year, I never ever thought that COVID would still be a factor next year. I suppose, in a way, I'm fortunate temperamentally wise in that I just accept things as they are. And I said, I just hope I'm not going to be the first ever Irish judge to be invited to judge Crufts that never gets to do it.
Yeah, that would not be nice.
I mean, I actually was extremely disappointed. An appointment I had greatly looked forward to was actually doing Best in Show in Stockholm Winter Show in December, which of course hasn't happened either. So I said, could COVID not have waited a year?
Yeah. But well, let's hope that that it's going to make just the things even more exciting because sometimes I always think that everything happens for a reason. So maybe there is a reason for all of this, and it's going to be even more exciting than that, because obviously once when we start to live the normal life again, it's going to be very, very exciting. So.
And I mean, just think, this year at Crufts, I had to write something like 180 critiques. I only was going to have to write 3 or 4 this year.
Yeah, that's true also. Anyhow, there has been a lot of discussions and a lot of talking about these new rules for crafts, and people were writing a lot about it. And I mean, it's definitely that crafts next year, if it's going to happen in July, it's going to be different than other crafts before. Yeah. And well, in a way, I can understand that people are frustrated for some things, but then we need to think, like, I think that if we can have it, if it can happen, it's already a great thing. So we should not go into the small details. But I want to ask you, and Dan Erickson is just writing, thank you, Ann, and for sharing your experience. He was in the same role as you will be next year. When you think of something so big, and this is judging Best in Show at Crafts, what do you think? How will you find your winner? What needs to be inside of this dog to win Best in Show under you at the greatest dog show of the world?
Well, first of all, I hope my picks and my best of the groups or whatever doesn't end up second. So they never get into the Best in Show ring. Sometimes too. I mean, I think both for group and Best in Show competition, attitude, showmanship. I mean, an awful lot. You're presuming that any dog that won the breed, never mind the group at Crufts, is going to be a pretty good specimen. So it has to be that dog that rises to the occasion and just takes your eye. And when you first see them coming in, quite often there's a dog that I have an expression that makes the hair stand up in the back of your neck.
Yeah.
So it's lovely when you get that experience, because you never have any doubt as to what's going to be the winner. It's just, wow, that's for me.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to define, isn't it? Really, that quality that brings a dog up from being just a lovely dog to being the dog that's actually going to win the huge awards. I think it definitely has to come in saying, what was an expression I read very recently? Somebody said, owns the ground he walks on. And,
yeah.
I think that is a big consideration.
Yeah.
One would presume they would all be in super condition and will all have good temperaments. Because it's quite a temperament test anyway, actually going into, of course, even for the groups, with cameras in their faces and all that sort of thing. So it just has to be that little bit extra of something. Yeah. That they'll all be nice specimens anyway,
Yeah, well, let's hope that in the lineup next year in July there is going to be a dog like that for you. And that you are going to enjoy your appointment, because this is definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity. And
funny enough, you're talking about special dogs. This might surprise you, but when I was judging all the AV import classes this year across, I actually fell in love with a hairless Zolo, and I just loved that bitch. And it just came into the breed ring, and I watched her in the breed. I thought she might have got shortlisted. But that dog had, I'm not saying I had to give her a messenger, but that dog had that just
charisma.
And a breed like that, I mean, you know, one of those you could send around the ring just a second time, just for the joy of watching them go.
Yeah.
So it's just lovely when you have a dog. I mean, that's really what makes judging so special when you see a dog like that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
it's such an unusual breed as well. So hopefully in the Crofts Basin show ring there'll be one that comes in that
Yeah.
I go, wow, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be. What I want to ask you, talking about judging, do you still have a favorite breed to judge? And is there still a breed that you feel a little bit like that you still don't understand maybe completely, or that it's a little bit more difficult for you?
Um, um, I do enjoy judging my own breeds. I think most people do. Um, Sometimes I actually think I judge some of the breeds I wouldn't be as nitpicky about better. I think sometimes when it's your own breed, you can get hung up on things a bit more. I actually enjoy, but funny, I enjoy judging whippets, but I actually enjoy judging some of the gun dog breeds, springers and things like that. I actually really enjoy. They're a very honest breed, aren't they? You basically
Yeah,
what is what you get. Um, yeah, there's still the several breeds that I feel how to put it uncomfortable judging. Actually, I think I've got better. I don't know. The exhibitor can judge that. I always felt very unsure judging chihuahuas, and last year I actually judged them. I think 3 times in fairly quick succession with decent entries.
hmm,
So I felt I was starting to get a bit of a better eye for them, shall we say.
yeah,
Pekingese, I would always be a bit iffy about as well. But having watched Andrew's webinar on them fairly recently, I kind of feel a bit more confident with them. I do think there are certain breeds that's fairly
yeah.
difficult
Of
for them.
course, absolutely. Yeah.
And actually,
Um,
sorry to interrupt you, but it
no
actually
problem.
one of my very strong held views as an all rounder. Um, is you should never try to judge like a specialist because you invariably get it wrong. Um, you know, like my own, boxers, for instance, I've seen all rounders judging them, and they kind of say, "Oh yeah, this is a head breed, this is a head breed," so we'll ignore the rest of them, and they invariably don't understand the heads, and then forget about the construction, so they just end up putting up a mess of a dog, really.
Yeah,
So I do tend to feel if you're an all rounder, you try to learn the breed specific points, but don't try to judge them like a breed specialist because
yeah.
most doesn't work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyhow, I have only two more questions left, and we have been talking for 2 hours now. And now they are going to start now sending these questions. Please more, please more, please more. Anyhow, let me just read a few of the comments. Svein Erik Bjornitz is saying, huge thank you for a very interesting interview. Desi Murphy is saying, I'm coming to watch Ann at Crafts. Patricia Nebirovsky de Alcina saying, thank you so much for interviewing again. Warmest regards for both of you. Venture Charlotte Cogley saying thank you for a great interview. Svein Erik saying see you at Crafts 2021. And then the one that we thought that has disappeared, and he will have to explain what was happening and where he was. Andrew Brace is saying Anne and I were born in the same year. Coincidentally awarded our first set of challenge certificates when we were 25, though in different breeds, and I consider her one of my most valued friends. I am often asked to recommend all breed judges by overseas clubs, and Anne is always my first suggestion, as I know she will judge efficiently and knowledgeably, but also fit in with any company. Whenever clubs take up that suggestion, they are always delighted with Anne's personality and performance, and invariably, she's had a return invitation before she's left the country. So,
And I
and
did.
Andrew Brace is still alive because I was really like I was thinking now after this interview, I need to make a phone call and check if he's still alive. Puna is saying wonderful interview. Eddie Patterson saying always a pleasure to listen to such a knowledgeable and experienced dog person. Anne's Craft's best in show appointment is so well deserved. Oliver Noonan is asking, does Anne probably think that Ireland should go full FCI rules?
I thought we were, aren't we?
I have no idea.
unless he means taking in CK. Just a bit, but I thought that I'm not sure because I actually thought we were Valencia.
I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, maybe. Anyhow, Andrew Brace, of course, is now writing already. Please go on for another 2 hours. Steve Barrett saying fantastic interview. Let me see. Nicola Spencer saying that solo at Crafts was really quite outstanding. It gave me goosebumps, great showmanship and presence. Steve Barrett is asking you, can I take Kay to the bar next time we meet at the show?
There's a story behind that now. Last time he took her to the bar, she wasn't the
best. He
best.
didn't finish well. Andrea Haider is saying, can't get enough. Thank you both very much for 2 gorgeous hours. Wish you great Christmas time. And then let's read one of my questions, and then we continue with the comments. Because you have made me work really hard. We have 202 comments, so just try to imagine that. What I want to ask you. Oh my God, I forgot the word that Andrew taught me about the question, which is not the last one, but the one before, but doesn't matter. It was mentioned in one of the questions from our viewers a little bit before about these new breeding rules about the brachy breeds in the Netherlands. And I mean, in general, we need to understand that the dog world is under a lot of attack in the last years. How do you see the future of the sport? What do you think at the moment are the biggest problems? And in general, on what we should focus in the years to come?
I think the problem is that other countries will follow. I mean, did we think when tail talking was banned, did we actually think that the whole of Europe, that this would happen? So I think, unfortunately, it will follow. I think one of the biggest problems is that countries are putting so many strong regulations on reputable breeders that it's discouraging good breeders from breeding. And yet, because the demand's there, the backyard breeders can breed away. And if a Frenchie goes into a vet with a problem, the vet isn't going to say, did you get this Frenchie from a reputable breeder? As far as they're concerned, it's just a Frenchie. It's another statistic for having a health problem. I don't know how you're ever going to combat that. I mean, the idea of changing the breeds is drastically. How have they all survived this long? And isn't it a crazy world that human beings can have serious health problems, and yet nobody ever says anything about them continually reproducing children with hereditary defects? They can go on and have 5 of them. And in a world with so much trouble in it, why on earth do governments have time to start bringing in legislation against dogs? But the reality of it is, unless, people have said, oh, the FCI should do something, the breeders should do something. But in actual fact, what we need is professional lobbyists who can go to the governments. And that's not an amateur job. You need to know what you're doing. So it's a very difficult thing, but I think that's where the American Kennel Club are very good, because they have lobbyists that go to the government and put their case. But it is hard to see. We've already seen huge drops in the entries. And already the health things have affected breeds quite severely. So it's difficult to see how the rest of the world won't follow, and we're not going to end up with less and less breeds. And unfortunately, the people that are bringing about these changes won't stop if they just carry on until dog shows are bad. I mean, I expect in 20 years' time I could see all the Labradoodles and all the rest of it being purebred dogs and registered with the Kennel Club. So I feel quite sad about the whole thing, and how we stop it, I really don't know. It's just got the whole bandwagon going now, hasn't it? Very difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a very challenging battle in the years to come. Yeah. Anyhow, let me read a few more comments, and then, or let me read you my last question for tonight, and then you can think about it a little bit until I read the rest of the comments. And this is: what would be the advice that you would give to somebody young who wants to be a part of the dog world and wants to become successful as a handler or a breeder or a judge. That's more or less the same question that Tony Moran is asking me to ask you. What advice would then give to judges starting out on their judging career? And then let me just read a few comments. Alice is saying, thank you, Ann, for a great interview. Sole Ragna, what a fantastic interview. Thank you both for a great evening. Nicola, thank you for both for a great interview. Tanya saying, don't stop, I adore to watch. Sheena saying, thanks, Ante and Ann, for a great interview. Alex saying, as always, great and interesting talking. Thank you both. Julie saying, absolutely adore her. I could listen to her for hours. What an amazing lady. I wish it never ended. Thank you, Ante. Philip John saying, great interview and good job, Ante. Lisa Graham, very interesting interview. Thank you. Best of luck for crafts. Paul Keenan saying, thank you very much, Ante and Ann. Really enjoyed and look forward to crafts and fingers crossed ABC in 2021. Richard Powell saying, thank you, wonderful. Karen, yes. Saying, yes, Ireland is an FCI country. Jen Sherry saying, thank you both, thoroughly enjoyed the 2 hours. Merry Christmas. Faye Baby saying, congratulations on another fantastic interview from a wonderful true dog person I truly admire, brought back so many wonderful Windsor memories for us. Andrew Bray saying, so much common sense, delivered so perfectly. Nicolas Canales, wonderful interview with a very real and reasonable dog person. Nicolas say, yes, pen ultimate. I will never remember that. Anyhow, let's hear your answer and to my last question. I'm going to say it once again. So, what would be your advice for somebody who wants to become, let's say, successful in the world of dogs? What would you advise him?
Well, I think first of all is don't think you're going to buy a champion. I actually think you're better to go and talk to a breeder and try and get a well-bred bitch that might not be going to be a champion, but hopefully would win a few classes for you. And then talk to sensible people, rate that bitch sensibly, ask knowledgeable people to help you pick a puppy, and do it slowly. Don't expect to go out and just be. You could be lucky and be able to buy a really good dog and make it up, but the chances aren't that great, because I remember Marion Spaven telling me, saying to me years ago, that champions aren't just bred, they're also made as well. And she said, my beagle puppies don't sit in the settee and jump on and off at watching the television to 10 o'clock at night and things like that. And I mean, show dogs to a degree have to be brought up as show dogs. They have to learn properly to walk on the lead. They have to learn how to stand. And if you've never shown a dog before, the chances of you bringing a puppy up properly, and if it's a prepared breed. So I definitely think find a good breeder who's going to be your mentor as well. Go to as many shows as you can, talk to as many people as you can, and basically listen and learn. And, I've heard a lot of people saying the young don't want to listen, but I don't know that that's totally true. There are some that don't. But I think it goes in stages. People start off and they are eager to learn. Then they have a bit of success and they know everything. And then if they stay around a bit longer, they realize they actually don't know that as much as they thought they did. So I think that's a fairly natural cycle. I do think, and funny enough, it came back to me, having been, I suppose, never really known not to be successful because my parents were. It didn't mean we won all the time, but you basically didn't keep a dog if you didn't think it was good enough. But I remember being in a friend's house who bought a boxer office for dinner one night, and he'd been to Crufts, and on the sideboard there was a framed fourth prize card. Now, I probably would have chucked the prize card. But it actually brought it home to me how important some of those awards are when you're starting off in life. And I think it kind of was quite a good thinking point for me in that sense. So I do think it's better for new people to I know they say serve an apprenticeship. I don't mean that they get beaten because the people are better known around them. I just mean I think if they're around for a while and then they finally win a class and then they finally win a CAC, they value it an awful lot more than if they just kind of arrive out and do very well. And I think they learn an awful lot more from that point of view. And there's a lot of helpful breeders out there. There's a lot of helpful judges if you approach in the right way. Again, as far as getting on the judging ladder, it's very much a question of listen and learn as well. And you find even the most experienced judges will openly admit that they might not have got it right, or they'd be asking breeders, well, what did you? I mean, next about I remember Terry Thorne years ago at Helsinki. He gave Tina Tall's Best in Joe with a brown miniature or medium, and we were having Angela Croce was with me, and we were having dinner afterwards. And he said, "Oh, what did you think? Well, was that a good poodle I put up?" And it was a beautiful poodle he put up. But for somebody like Terry Thorne to be
to ask that kind of question, yes.
So I think actually, the younger ones would actually feel that the older ones and the more established people are generally more approachable. I mean, the thing is, don't go and try talking to people when they're getting the dog ready to go into the ring or they're standing. Yeah. None of us, I think, appreciate that. You're what you're doing. And I think most established judges, if somebody talks to them politely after you've judged the dog or something, they're perfectly willing to talk to you and guide you on the right class. I think just don't be in too much of a rush. Take it gently, and you'll get there.
Yeah, wonderful. Let me read a few more comments before we end this interview. Brina is saying, thank you so much for yet another fantastic interview. Questions and answers have been so great, and it is a pleasure to listen to such a knowledgeable and true dog person. Thank you. Andrew is saying, please tell Anne, I've discovered a new champagne, and I can't wait for Anne to sample it. Desi Murphy is saying, this made my birthday great. So from all of us, happy birthday, Desi. Hope you had a great birthday, and definitely it's an honor for us that you watched for 2 hours our interview on your birthday. Really appreciated. Steve Barrett is saying, I can't wait to witness you judging Best in Show at Crafts. Dan Buchwald is saying, probably the best thing that could have happened from the world's coming to a stop due to COVID is these webinars and interviews easily available via internet. James Bryan saying super night from a world-class lady. Heather Stewart saying great interview. Vanya is saying such a lovely and knowledgeable lady. Enjoyed every minute, and of course would love to keep listening for another 2 hours or even days. Thank you both so much. Mary is saying warmest thanks for the evening. Yvonne saying great interview with a great lady. Ken Crockett saying great night, enjoyed both questions and answers. This lady is just the same when talking to us ringside. Common sense and compassion. Merry Christmas to all. Dan saying fantastic interview, thank you. Yurita saying great interview, thank you. Karen saying thank you both for a nice evening. Maggie saying marvelous interview, such a died in the wool dog lady, could listen forever. Tom here saying, Tom, lovely interview, and thank you, Anne and Ante. And a million of other comments. I'm sure, Anne, you will enjoy to read all of them once when you relax after this.
I should retire now after all those lovely comments, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really really happy that it was so many people watching it, and as I said, 240 comments, which is just amazing. What I want to say just for the end is I need to read that when I sent you the invitation to be my guest, you wrote, okay. Okay, Beltran told me that we had a little problem, something got frozen, but I hope now I'm back, probably yes. So anyhow, what I wanted to say is that when I invited Anne which is absolutely, as I said in the beginning, one of these people that I greatly admire. She wrote me back. That would be a great honor for me, and I would be delighted to do. I have to say, I will be a bit terrified as you have such wonderful guests on your chat. I think it will be a very high standard to follow on. So what I want to say, and I'm sure that all the viewers are going to agree, is that you have been absolutely fabulous, and that you have been honest and inspiring, and you gave me, and obviously to all the people who are watching, everything what we expected from you, and I'm incredibly grateful to you. I really hope that this crazy thing of coronavirus is going to stop soon, and I'm sure that many of us are really looking forward to see you judging Best in Show at Crafts. In the same way, I want to invite all of you to join me again next Wednesday, because my guest is going to be another superstar of the dog world, Mr. Frank Kane from the United Kingdom. And for the end, I want to say once again, thank you, Anne. I want to say thank you to all the viewers from all around the world for following the interview and for all the comments. And I give the last sentence of the evening to you, Anne, to say goodnight to everybody.
Well, I really appreciate all the fantastic comments that you've all made. I mean, it's just amazing, and I'd like to thank Auntie very much for giving me this opportunity to talk. But I think it's just amazing that so many of you took the time and trouble to tune in. Thank you very much indeed. And I hope I won't go down in history as the one judge invited to Crufts that never got to do it.
I'm sure that's not going to happen. And I really keep my fingers crossed for all of us to be able to enjoy Crafts next year and watching you judge Best in Show. As I said, thank you so much, Anne, for accepting my invitation. It's been a great honor and a pleasure, and I hope to see you soon somewhere.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Auntie. Good night.
Welcome. Good night, everybody.